Lastly, IDPOL, or better known as identity politics, is the most mask-off racist term used by these flock. The civil rights movement is identity politics. Fighting for the right for gay marriage in 2015 is identity politics. The fight for Roe v. Wade is identity politics.
And this person who made this video, Soul Bunny, they are radical. They are big in the CRT. They know, or they should know, that's not what identity politics means when far leftists use it at all. So much of like the leftist cultural subversion that's happening now, it can only go on as long as the moderate mainstream left in America doesn't understand it's happening.
I can keep this going all day, but let's get into this caucasity. Before I dive in, I need to define some terms and give some context for the foolishness you'll hear. Woke school, genderqueer, and identity politics, shortened to IDPOL, are dog whistles that they enjoy weaponizing against marginalized people.
Dog whistles.
Okay, so woke scold and identity politics, these are dog whistles. That mean you're racist if you use these terms, I guess. Okay, interesting.
I don't see people on the right using the term woke scold.
No.
A lot, yeah.
Right, but this is a critique of the left. There are people like the left use it.
But she's saying it's a dog whistle for the right.
Well, no, she's saying it's a dog whistle for racism.
Okay.
Woke school being an offshoot of woke used disingenuously by right-wingers. Like
oh, never mind. You're right. Okay, I take it back.
Do right winger? I mean, I don't hear a lot of right wingers say woke scold.
Yeah, that's true.
You're a woke scold.
Like, okay, mom.
Erykah Badu said, "It's just another way to say black or thug."
Wait a minute.
Woke scold is another way to say thug.
Weaponizing against marginalized people. Context for the foolishness you'll hear. Woke school, genderqueer, and identity politics, shortened to IDPOL, are dog whistles that they enjoy weaponizing against marginalized people. Woke school being an offshoot of woke used disingenuously by right-wingers. Like Erykah Badu said, it's just another way to say black or thug. Let alone
Who's Erykah Badu?
I don't know, but woke scold is another way to say thug?
Thug,
or black.
Yeah. Even though
that's
most
literally
of the people...
insane. That's literally insane.
Most of the people I would think of as woke scolds are white.
Yeah. Like, whenever I've seen the woke scold moniker thrown at someone, I mean, I've seen it thrown at a lot of white people.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it, like, specifically thrown at just black people or something. Like, I don't know. It's very strange to me. It's usually, when I've seen it, it's someone on the left who is complaining because someone on the left is out-lefting them, essentially. Right. They're like, oh, well, you're not really leftist enough because, you know, you didn't use you had some microaggression here, or you didn't have the proper, you know, social etiquette here, you didn't have the proper pronoun usage here, blah 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 blah. And they're like, listen, I'm trying to fight for our rights to unionize as workers. Stop being such a woke scum.
Oh yeah, we hear that from Bosch all the time.
Yes, you're seeing that a lot in this video.
On woke being AAVE. Genderqueer is a word that has different meanings person to person, but the way I see it used is equivalent to a queer version of woke school. Lastly, IDPOL, or better known as identity politics, is the most mask-off racist term used by these flock. The civil rights movement is identity politics.
Okay, this is like, oh my god.
You said it. Mask off, Sitch.
Jeez. Wait. Let me see.
Dial it back a second.
Let me see if that's the end of the sentence.
Fighting for the right for gay marriage in 2015 is identity politics. The fight for Roe v. Wade is identity politics. Black trans people fighting to combat the disgusting reality of our high murder rate is identity politics. We don't have to be class reductionist to expect change that...
Okay. So they said if you use the term identity politics in some sort of like dismissive or attacking way, that's mask off for fascism or racism. Okay, right? Is that what they said?
Yeah.
Let me go back.
The most mask off racist term used by these flock.
Okay, that's the most mask off racist term. And then they said that, you know, the civil rights movement was identity politics and gay marriage and all these things. They're all identity politics, right? This person here, who's a self-described leftist socialist, I believe they're socialists. They are very far on the left. And they're quoting Kimberly Crenshaw, they're quoting all the CRT stuff. They either A, are lying, or B, are not anywhere near as educated on the topics as they think they are. Because, like, if you just look up like a general definition of identity politics, you know, there's generally two definitions. There's the one that's just like the very broad, just look it on Google and say something like, people have a shared identity, unifying to enact some kind of political change that's relevant to their identity, right? That'll be like the first sentence. And so people say, oh, look, that's what identity politics is. Or how can you be against this? This is the civil rights movement. This is all these things that, everyone's in favor of. Identity politics is like all politics, right? Just on this like super broad definition that people like to point to. But if you ever like read a little bit further down the definition, you see it starts to get a little bit more radical, a little bit more extreme. And this person who made this video, Soul Bunny, they are radical. They are big in the CRT. They know, or they should know, that's not what identity politics means when far leftists use it at all.
Right. Okay? They mean something completely different.
Right. So the actual definition of identity politics, or the way that these far left people use it, is actually, and I was kind of like I was like reading into this the other day. There's a person named Sonia Krunks who I think puts it very well. And they said, what makes identity politics a significant departure from earlier pre-identitarian forms of politics of recognition is its demand for recognition on the basis of the very grounds in which recognition has previously been denied. The demand is not for inclusion within the fold of a universal humankind or on the basis of a shared human attribute, nor is it in respect of in spite of one's differences. Rather, it's a demand for respect for oneself as different.
Wow. Okay.
So what that all kind of means.
What's that from?
There's this woman that wrote a paper.
Okay.
About it.
Sonia.
Yeah, Sonia. So what that all means essentially is that, and James Lindsay's talked about this a lot, and this all comes from sort of Kimberly Crenshaw's intersectionality paper, where she says, the civil rights movement tried to strain, I think that was the word she used, they try to strain, Black people in the civil rights movement strain for a sense of like universal identity, where they say, I am a man first, right? Me being Black is kind of irrelevant to my essence, my nature. You shouldn't think of me as Black. You should think of me as like a human being, right? This is the universal, identity rooted in liberalism. Right. That we should all essentially be colorblind.
Race, the human race.
Right. There's one race, the human race, right? And that's what the civil rights movement, or at least the moderate people in the civil rights movement, including Martin Luther King Jr., were advocating for, this sort of universal liberalism. And Kimberly Crenshaw says she doesn't think that's effective. She doesn't think people should do that. She thinks that it's better for them to say, I'm Black first. Before I'm even human, I'm Black first. That we should be coalescing around some sort of racial identity in using this to leverage to gain political power. And other people need to accept like my Blackness. And embedded within all that, of course, is all sorts of other toxic ideas, such as standpoint theory, which is the idea that if you're Black, essentially, and you're talking to a white person and there's a disagreement, the white person just have to concede to you, the Black person, on the disagreement, because as a Black person, you have access to special knowledge about reality that the white person doesn't have, because you live, as a Black person, you live in a white person's world, so you understand their worldview, but the white person can never understand the Black person's worldview. So therefore, the Black person has access to all this like extra secret knowledge, and therefore is more correct on these issues. Even, and kind of like the way that this is used, this is very often used, and you'll even see this in this video to some extent, is used as a way to dismiss studies and like facts and things of that nature, and say, oh, you should just listen to my story, my experiences, and like you should just take my story and my experiences on its face to be automatically true, essentially.
Yeah. Standpoint epistemology.
And
you have the lived experience to bring the knowledge to the table that other people don't possess.
Yes.
And that knowledge cannot be questioned.
And it's funny because the term identity politics, and again, Soul Bunny should know this, it actually came from the Combahee River Collective, which was a group of Black socialist radical feminist lesbians.
Wow.
Okay.
Sounds very inclusive.
Yes, who wrote like super, they wrote this like super duper leftist doctrine, and they created the term identity politics. And they first used it, and they said, This focusing on our own oppression is embodied in the concept of identity politics. We believe that the most profound and the potentially most radical politics come directly out of our own identity. Okay. So even they're saying, the people that created the term are saying that the most radical politics comes out of identity politics. So again, for a Soul Bunny to kind of like do this Mott and Bailey identity politics, that's just the civil rights movement. That's just, all these moderate liberal things. Like, that's not true. And she should know that that's not true.
Right.
No.
Yeah. The idea that you would be black before human is kind of antithetical to the civil rights movement.
Yes. Well, at least the liberal version of the civil rights movement.
Sure. Yeah.
And I
Definitely
think
against universalism. That's for sure.
yes. Well, it's annoying because it's the same thing with woke. It's the same thing with identity politics, where it's like these terms kind of come into usage. I mean, obviously woke and these terms are kind of older, but like the way that they're being used now, they're being used very specifically now to refer to a change or a perceived change from behaviors of people on the left in the last like 6 or 7 years politically. Okay. And we all understand that. Like, we all sense that there's been a change, and these are the words we're using to describe it. And these very dishonest leftists will kind of do this game where they say, oh, well, those words don't mean anything because some people overuse them. And they kind of try to do this to like, if you can't name something, and you can't describe it, it's very difficult to combat it. And so since so much of this, so much of like the leftist cultural subversion that's happening now, it can only go on as long as the moderate mainstream left in America doesn't understand it's happening. Right. So they continually have to play this game of subversion and secrecy where they hide and pretend like, oh, yeah, on YouTube amongst the kiddies, they'll be very mask off because who cares? But out in like the mainstream, they'll totally hide and play this game of hide the ball. And they'll play this shell game where it's like you can never exactly pin down what they are or who they are, or what exactly they believe in. Whenever you try to call it out, they say, no, I'm just continuing the civil rights movement. I'm just like everyone else on the left. I'm just totally like a good liberal.
That is the Kimberly Crenshaw Joy Reid interview where Joy Reid asked Kimberly Crenshaw, is CRT Marxist? And Kimberly Crenshaw goes on a tirade for like 15 minutes and doesn't answer the question.
Yes.
Because of course it is. But Joy Reid can't say that. Oh, it's just civil rights. It's just teaching black history. That's all we're doing here.
Yep.
Yeah. It's super interesting. It's universalism though. I mean, traditionally, I think the moral intuitions against universalism come out of, people having different rules for the elites. The elites had different rules than the normal people, and people, kind of learned to accept that. And then universalism came in. I think like around the Magna Carta, where they started saying, everyone is equal in the eyes of the law. We should all be treated the same. So this subversive attitude going back to, like standpoint epistemology and, I'm a black before I'm a human being. So it's not really a universal thing. It's like a group thing. Mm-hmm. That I think is a return to kind of the elite way of thinking. But I don't think they would want to categorize it that way.
Right.
But I guess maybe everybody wants to take power, even if they aren't an elite. They want different rules for them.
Yeah, I don't know if it stems from the elite idea or if the elite idea kind of uses that baseline tribalism to its advantage.
That could be.
Yeah, because like if you have a worldview where essentially you say, okay, my tribe has X rules and this other tribe, we don't have to we can treat them like crappy, like they have other rules, right? It's kind of like if you kind of embed that very strongly in your moral political philosophy, it'd be very easy then for an elite class to then kind of say, well, we're an even different group than, the commoners, right? So we get even different rules, only they just happen to be beneficial rules to us.
It is in group, out group. That's basically all it is. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that shows sort of the flaw in this thinking that, the CRT and the leftists and all this identity politics crowd completely misses, is that if you don't embed universalism in your philosophy, number one, everyone's going to be super racist. And also it's kind of funny. They're like, we're going to fight racism and we're going to fight sexism, by being super racist and super sexist. It's like
I know, it's crazy.
It's like a totally insane idea. It's like, okay, like I don't know, like you have to be deluding yourself to think that this will actually accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So
Ibram X. Kendi, that's his thing. The only way to fight racism now is with more racism. It's like, okay, dude.
The civil rights movement is identity politics. Fighting for the right for gay marriage in 2015 is identity politics.
Wrong.
The fight for Roe v. Wade is identity politics.
And just to be clear, like, well, I don't know, the Roe v. Wade thing's weird, but like with the gay marriage and civil rights, both those movements were people who they were just right. It was people who were part of a group, like, you know, black people or gay people, but they were trying to fight for the universal liberal rights that everyone else in society had
access to. Yeah.
Right. So blacks were like, we shouldn't have to be second-class citizens. We should have the same rights as every other white American. So it's not identity politics because they're advocating. The goal of their advocacy is to be part of the universal liberal society that everyone else is part of.
Yep.
Black trans people fighting to combat the disgusting reality of our high murder rate is identity politics. We don't have to be class productive to expect change that lacks the intersection of race, gender, and sexual orientation.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.